Hi everybody. Okay, so my name's Jeannie and I head up the client relationships here at Lavandi Talent. So my job is basically just to make sure all of our clients are well looked after and that they're getting the very best service from us as a recruitment agency, and we're doing our jobs correctly, finding them the right candidates. This is Gary.
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Gary, one of the co-founders and directors of Lavandi. Hiya. Hello, Leah. I'm one of the co-founders and directors of Lavandi, as I said. Just to tell you briefly about us, in case anyone doesn't know, we are a beauty and personal care recruitment agency. We just specialise just really in that sector. We cover everything from manufacturers, distributors, packaging, the whole way through to brands. And we literally do jobs all over the UK, to New Zealand, to America, to Asia. So that's pretty much who we are and what we do. So when we were asked to put together this presentation, we decided to do it on how to attract, retain top talent in your business. One of the things that we find really weird, I guess, is that working in the recruitment agency, a lot of clients, when we speak to them, are like, oh no, we don't work with a recruitment agency, or recruitment's like just one wee tiny small part of our job or part of our business. And we're like, we get that, I guess, but we kind of believe that people are your business, and the importance of having the right people should be the most important thing, personally, to us. So we try to educate and meet as many clients as possible to kind of change that mindset. And we're not trying to sell us even just as a service. We feel like they could have an internal recruiter who's right for their business, or have a good team in place that do that. The businesses who don't do that and maybe get their talent, like have their marketing directors or sales directors recruiting for them, we feel like these people are probably not the best people to be doing that. Obviously they're the people that should be making the decisions at the end, but we don't feel like they should be the people who are sifting through CVs, basically. So just to start off, we did a bit of research into this. We work with a company called Retain Search, and it's a company who focus just on retain business, really. So there's something we want to do more as a recruitment agency is get clients working with us on a retained basis, which means like a subscription nearly. And one of the things that they talk to us about is about a bad hire, the cost of a bad hire. So, for example, for us, like Forbes says that the Department of Labour estimates that the cost of a bad hire, and this is from this year, can equal up to 30% of a company's complete first year earnings in the early stages of a business. Obviously, this is going to have a massive detrimental effect.
Yeah, so following on from that, and just some more statistics really of how important it is of hiring the right person for your business. The Prestige Recruitment Group have done a year-long study, and the cost of a mishiring a mid-managing professional on a salary of around £42,000 can cost a company up to £132,000 of a yearly cost. So this includes like the recruitment cost, the training cost of that one individual, and also like the mismanagement and the productivity of that individual as well. So £132,000 is a massive, massive amount to a small to medium business and even a large business. So that's why it is just absolutely about getting it right the first time.
Cool. That is on our first slide. So the importance of your people make your company. So obviously, whenever people are recruiting or growing their teams, the first thing is obviously prospecting, sourcing, and attracting the best talent for your business. One of the things that we find is whenever we're speaking to a client, and the things that they tell us and how they see themselves is maybe not how others see them. So it's really important that you kind of speak to your team before you're kind of prospecting, and get maybe do an anonymous survey really to find out what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to be changed. And I think it's really vital to get how your team feel, because for us ourselves at Lavandi, when we recruit, after we bring someone in for a first stage interview, we get them to sit with the team. And when they sit with the team, some of the things the team tell them is not maybe what we've said. So it's very important that the team are really are thinking and selling the business, or talking about the business the same way you are. Also, when you're prospecting or you're looking for people, I guess there's no point selling your business as some dream. And obviously a lot of managing directors or owners of the business, it's their baby, and when they're selling the business, they're going to say promise the world pretty much. And then what we find is place candidates there, and then in 3 months we're replacing that job again because they found something else. So it's really about just prospecting the right people. The best way of doing that is obviously comparing yourself to the competition. So genuinely, I think if you're a manufacturer, you look at your closest manufacturers. Like obviously Dan from Orian's here, so I was speaking to him about this yesterday, and he was talking about his competitors, because we recruit for Dan. He was asking me questions, which I thought was brilliant, about what the other manufacturers are offering and what they do. So I think that's really important to know what your competitors are doing and what salary you're offering, because a lot of people, clients will come to us and say, this is what we're paying because this is what we've always paid, or this is what the rest of my team's on. Well, that's great, but that's the candidate in a candidate short market. It's really like, just because that's what you pay and that's what you pay the rest of your team, that doesn't mean you're going to get the right person for that job. You're probably not, because there's going to be other jobs out there. And nowadays, people aren't afraid to change jobs. It used to be one of those things where if you were going to change a job, you'd be like, oh, I want to get 6 months longer on my CV, or I want to do it for 3 years, or I'll look bad. That's not important anymore. Whenever we look at CVs, we do not look at how long they've been in that job. If it's been a month, perhaps we'll ask questions, or a couple of months, but it usually comes back there's a problem with the client, not the candidate. So it's usually there's a reason why they're looking to leave, and usually a prospective new client doesn't look at the candidate as the problem. They want to know why they didn't stay there, and they feel like it's more a problem on the client. So based on that, personally, and people who progress quicker, someone else I spoke with this yesterday, they've seemed to progress quicker. Someone from the Hot Group that we spoke to, one of the girl ladies had been there for she'd worked for the Itchson, and she'd been there for 5 years. And her friend who was with her yesterday has just started there 6 months and has come in doing the same job on a much higher salary because she's had the experience. And obviously they're now friends. They're coming to this trade show and walking around together, and now they found this out. Now, obviously, both those people are looking at new jobs, and they're not come to us. So, I guess if the company had everything right in line and had honest conversations with their staff, they might not even, they would have walked by us rather than coming and chatting to us. Also on that, the interview process. So obviously we as a recruitment agency, we want things to happen quick. So we try to push things as quick as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to be refilling jobs again. It's so wasting on our time. So we want to make sure you get the right people in your business. So we do very much believe at the moment, like a lot of clients do, like a first stage and a second stage interview via Teams. We don't agree with that. We think that's really not the wise thing to do, because whenever we interview people, sometimes through Teams, and they come in, we're like, who is this person? We don't recognize the person. They're just completely different face to face. And I still think I do think it's good to do a first stage interview via Teams, because I think it doesn't waste time, doesn't mean the candidate and client have to lose money by traveling or whatever. So they kind of get a good feel, and they kind of 50-50 know where they're at with them. But face to face, you definitely get a better feel. We generally believe in that, and we think it's very important to do maybe 2 to 3 stages if necessary. Definitely don't feel like a one stage we would never recommend any of our clients to do a one stage. Also, at the moment, I'm sure everyone's aware of this, it's very much a candidate-driven market. With everything, we'll touch on this in a bit, but it's very much a candidate-driven market, and I think the quicker clients realise that, it's the quicker they're going to be, because there's one client in particular that we've got that's got one job and they're not moving on it, and they've had that job for 5 months now because they continuously interview people. We find candidates for them, and then they're not moving the what's the word for it? They're not moving the goalposts. Yeah. And literally every candidate's coming in, getting counter offered, and then they're not moving it by maybe even a couple of grand, and we're losing out, and it's time's money.
Yeah. So as Gary was just saying, the cost of a bad hire, we've done that one. So yeah, basically it is a very candidate driven market at the minute. With this, a lot of the time when companies are hiring, they're leaving like managing directors to do the hiring, or sales managers. These people weren't brought in to necessarily be recruitment consultants, so it's not their number one focus in the job. It's very time consuming, and that time is being taken away from doing their actual job, which is managing a team maybe. When you hire the wrong person as well, it can have a big shift in culture into the business. So just from experience of, if you've hired somebody and they're not the right fit, for example, but they're already a part of the team can change completely. And also bringing people in on a higher salary. So like if you're hiring top talent, say, and you bring them in on a higher salary than the rest of the team are on doing the same job, that can have a really sort of negative effect on the business as staff talk about things like that, and it can cause friction within the group.
Yeah, and to add on to that, so like obviously location, one of the points there about location, like we are so sick of like speaking to clients who are like, say they're based in the middle of nowhere, and they want people to be there, like they want them to be in the office, and we get for certain roles you need that. Us as recruitment consultants, we want to work as a team, so we're in the office 4 days a week and have 1 day from home. There's nothing else we can really do with that because of the nature of our job. But there's so many jobs, particularly in marketing, where they don't need to be in the office, and we find the businesses that we're working with that we've seen grow massively, like Sunday Riley, etc., or Pie, etc. Those brands brands that are letting people be grown-ups and trusting they're employing the right people and letting them grow and letting them develop and letting them work from home or being flexible with their working hours, and then they're getting the best talent, so then their businesses are taking off much quicker. And the brands that are not, we're not seeing anything about them because they're hiring someone who lives 30 minutes away who might not have the right skill set. They're probably not from the industry, they're not coming from the industry, they're probably coming from food or drink. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're wanting someone who's specific to a specific role, who's got a specific need, the world's getting smaller, like because of technology and everything, and people can travel when they need to, and they can with Teams and Zoom, etc. There's no need for people to be doing this. So I feel like if a business isn't hiring the right people, or they're only hiring people because based on their location, it's something
missing out.
They're missing out. Yeah, simple as that. Because all the competitors aren't doing that. The competitors are now looking at not caring about locations. We've filled jobs, like UK jobs, with candidates in America, because they're the best people for the job.
Yeah, so that's a massive thing at the minute. So it's been a big shift, obviously, since COVID-19. Everybody went like working from home. People moved out of London, for example, to find cheaper housing. So talent has shifted massively. A lot of companies that are doing really, really well, just as you said, Gary, they do focus more on hybrid working, or perhaps coming into the office once a month or even once a week. You will get top talent into your business if you offer better packages. Say your competitor wants you in the office or in the studio like 5 days a week, compared to somebody that just wants you once a month. You're going to go for that once a month role most often than not. Progression is a massive thing people are now asking for as well. So 99% of our candidates that we all speak to, the number one thing on their agenda is progression within a business and a company culture. Salary's sort of taken a backdrop. So we did a LinkedIn poll, didn't we? We ran it for about 2 weeks. And number one on what people wanted out of a career move was culture. Number two was progression. And then number three was the salary and the package that the business offered. So that's a massive change.
Working from home.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
three,
was it?
Yeah,
oh, was it?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, 4 was package. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a massive thing now. I think if you're not offering that as a business, you're really missing out on top talent in the industry.
Yeah, 100%. And then I guess before we kind of finish off really, before we kind of go to any questions, we just kind of want to like talk about kind of people's like hiring processes and stuff like that. Is there anyone in here that does? I know you do. I'm going to throw you in, Anna. Whenever you're doing your own recruitment, what way do you do your? If you mind me asking, like which way do you do your recruitment processes at the moment? How many stages would you do? Would it be face to face?
I would normally do Teams first.
Yeah.
Usually, actually we do it the way around where the most senior person does that first, check the cultural fit.
Oh.
So yeah, more senior person would do the Teams first, because if the cultural fit's not right, then they're not right. And then the hiring manager would then do face to face.
Yeah.
And then we'd normally do meet the team.
What would your biggest struggles be?
The biggest
struggles when recruiting at the moment?
I think fit, actually.
Yeah.
And then actually, I think you're right, work at the balance between home and office. I mean, I think there's a generational thing there, especially with a younger generation not wanting to come in the office as much. So you've got to be flexible. And some companies I've worked with and for just aren't flexible on that. And then they miss out.
I know. Yeah, it's fun. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. And like exactly what Hannah was saying, like we find as well sometimes, and one good point that Hannah actually mentioned there, and we didn't include on this, was that like this more junior members of the team perhaps doing like senior but more junior, doing the first stages, because a lot of people in business, I hope I'm not guilty of this, but I think a lot of people who are high up in the businesses or the owners of the businesses, they don't actually know what's right for the business sometimes. Like they're not the right people because they're not down there working every day or in the office every day or seeing what's going on. So I think it's really important that the team really do have a say on the next hires, and so I do think that's a really, really good thing to do. One more thing to mention just before we finish is like pretty much another thing that we found out, we only found this out yesterday actually, is that pretty much a lot of companies have a different process for a salary, for a job that's up to 30k and for a job that's over 50k, so you use a completely different process. And to be honest with you, we don't think that's right. And a lot of recruitment studies that we've done, and there was Reed did a study about the processes, that what you do for a job coming up to like a lower end jobs and higher end jobs. But actually people are people, so people are in your business, and a small person can make as much a big impact. I know they won't have as many decisions to make, or they won't be maybe have a budget to manage the same, but I think it's really important that everything runs, because those people at the bottom at the moment might be your directors in the future, and if you want them to stay in your business, I guess they want to be treated the same or be brought into the business, and they're the ones that are going to progress in your business, and they're not going to leave. Really, they should have that. They should be brought into the business with the same kind of interview process and the same treatment, we believe. And we do feel like sometimes, I think it doesn't always come from below. It can come up. We've experienced that ourselves. So that's another thing we think people, some food for thought. Just that recruitment process is probably the same for a company throughout.
Yeah, definitely.
And perhaps the only reason maybe for a third or fourth stage is that you have two people who are as strong as each other and you can't make a decision. That's probably the only time a third or fourth stage is necessary. That's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to ask, Jeannie?
No. Any questions?
Any questions from anyone? Yeah, go for it.
What's your advice when you place someone?
Yeah.
What's your advice when you place someone and then within about, I don't know, a month or so, they're on the phone to you saying, I've made a mistake? What advice do you give them at that point?
My advice would be to start looking straight away. Literally. Like, I don't know, it's not the best, but I would, because I feel like it depends on the scenario. So if it's a candidate I know really, really well, and it's a candidate that and we particularly place them there, and we're not sure, I'd probably go to them and hear the other options, because if there's one example, there was a candidate I placed recently, Tom will know who I'm talking about, and I placed her there, and I kind of convinced her to kind of stay and see things out, and now she's left, but I've kind of lost that relationship with her as well in a way, because she's now found another job, and she's found it through another recruitment agency, because I was giving her the advice to stay there, so she didn't want to kind of come back to me and be honest about that, if that makes sense, like that she was really, really unhappy. I feel like she felt like I was maybe convincing her to stay because it was my client. But my advice wouldn't be that. My advice was, because I genuinely believed in that scenario, that she wasn't giving it the best opportunity. Yeah. And she had an issue with one of her senior managers, and I just thought just speak to them, or just have a conversation with him and just try and make things change. But she didn't do that. She just kind of went into herself and then thought, I'll find another recruiter to find me a job. But my advice would be, obviously go and speak to your senior manager, speak to them first. That'd be the first thing before I ask them to just start looking. But I'd be like, go and speak to them, address the issues, because you don't know, someone else might have had these issues before, or the person that you've replaced might have had that issue before. So if you're addressing it, then they're like, well, that's 2 people that's had this issue, or 3 people, or something we need to change in our company. But if that's not resolved, I'd definitely tell them to start looking quicker, because we find that if you then go and work somewhere, it's kind of counteractive to what I've said before, but if you start looking for a new job maybe 6-7 months down the line, the next potential hire client might be like, well, you were there that long, well, is there an issue with you? But if you left straight away, they'd probably think, well, it just wasn't right for you, company culture fit. I think deep down you just trust your gut. I think everything comes back to that. And I feel like if you're working somewhere and it doesn't suit you from day one, it's probably not going to ever. Do you know what I mean?
I think from like a client side as well. So if it was you doing the hire and you found out that the candidate maybe you thought they were the right fit for the business, right culture fit, and then a month into them working there, it turns out that they're not perhaps the right fit for the business, we always offer like a replacement for that particular candidate.
We do a 3 month to 6 months.
Yeah, and we also say like it's better to sort of hire slowly and fire fast, just to make sure that you get it absolutely right. I know it sounds a little bit cutthroat, but you've got to do what's right by the business and also what's right by the team that they're working in with, because it could be having a detrimental effect on the rest of the team as well.
Another thing on that we're trying to get a lot of our clients to do now is psychometric tests, because we feel like they actually do really work. Like a lot of our clients, like Baylis and Hardin, I don't know if anyone's ever worked there, but Baylis and Hardin, like they had it really bad at one stage, and they'll not mind me saying this, I hope Tanya won't, but at one stage they were losing everyone, and they brought in psychometric tests over the last, like, I'd say 2 years, and the team that we placed there love it. The people that are there right now, Steve and all, they're really happy there, and the market people, and it is because they've got the right people now from bringing in the psychometric tests. And I know my old company where I used to work, we did psychometric tests, and actually everyone, whenever we did them, was exactly like when we did them, and then they hired people. When they brought them in, we got to see, as a manager, I got to see psychometric tests, and they were spot on. They were always spot on. So I do think it is important, especially if it's going to be an office-based role, or you're going to have people in a business working very closely together. It's probably a good tool to use. And it does, and for us, it does mean the recruitment process does take a bit longer, but it is what it is. And I feel like if candidates not willing to take a psychometric test, well, then maybe they don't want the job that much. Do you know what I mean? Does that answer your question around the houses? But
yeah. I've got one more question.
Go for it.
The counter offer.
Yeah. I hate the counter offer.
I know you So every time that I've been in that position where I've made a counter offer to get someone to stay, whether it's been within a month or within 2 years, they end up leaving anyway. How do you persuade people that a counter offer is not the right thing if they've made that decision to leave in the first place.
Usually, because we kind of think like, well, they should have. If someone should have known that.
Yeah.
We get it. We get it from both sides because it's never happened to us, thankfully. But I get the point when it probably will in some stage. And if we really want to keep someone, we'll probably make them a counter offer. But I do also see, we tell candidates like, well, if the client, your boss should have known your worth. Like, they should have known what you were worth, rather than offering you this now as an end result. But I guess sometimes you're kind of pushed against it. Like, maybe you're so busy as a manager or a director, and you don't realize maybe what else is going on in other companies, and maybe don't realize that. But then that's kind of back on you again to kind of know if someone's unhappy and that they're looking for jobs, looking at interviews. So we try and present candidates not to take a counter offer, because you're spot on. Every
never
single,
works out well.
Every single
never
one.
Goes well.
So the client will offer a counter offer, and then what will happen is the candidate will take it. They'll come back to us in 3 months. That job is gone. Then they'll reach out to the client that we had. They're completely not interested, and they must have closed the door with someone. And then what will happen is they take the counter offer. Everyone in that business knows the counter offer. So then, because they'll be vocal about it, they'll be annoyed still, and then the team are annoyed because that person had a counter offer. Then everyone's salaries have to go up. So we really recommend candidates just don't do it.
Yeah.
We would only ever do it. Me and Tom and Andy have discussed it. We'd only ever do it if we've really screwed up ourselves, and it's something that we should have acknowledged. But I think usually if someone came to us and had an offer, we'd wish them all the best, really, and just say, yeah, wish you luck. Like, do you know what I mean? Good luck.
Like you said as well, they always end up leaving. So even if it's like 2 or 3 years down the line, that person were looking for another job, it might just not be based on salary. More often than not, it's not just based on salary, it's other things that are going on.
A lot of people do go
yeah.
for jobs too. So we find this as well. It's frustrating. A lot of people go for jobs to get a counter offer. Like, a lot of people go, they apply for jobs and then they get the counter offer and they take it, and we get that as well. And if that's your goal, that's fine. Like, that's fine. That works for you, maybe. But we do know that happens as well. But it is what it is. But I think personally, if you're really not happy somewhere, you've made up your mind to go to the effort to go for an interview. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you have to really know that you're not happy where you are. Does that make sense? Anyone else? Leah, any questions? Hi, Tristan.
What would your thoughts be on a potential candidate socially integrating with the teams prior to you making a decision on them and them making a decision on the business? So previously, I've got a few of my colleagues in this room as well, but I totally agree with a 2 to 3 stage interview process before you can totally vet a potential candidate. Sometimes on the 3rd stage, we've actually brought a candidate to, say, the pub with us one evening so they can meet the team more sort of when tools are kind of put down. I mean, is that something that you would recommend, or is that just a stylistic or cultural thing with individual businesses?
Yeah, I think it's an individual thing. We would do that as well.
I think we did that.
Not for the pub thing, we wouldn't do that, but we would definitely bring the team in. We'd do that. We've done things before they start. We'd do like a welcome meal. We'd do that, but would that be at offer stage? We would never do it before offer stage. Is that, would you do it before offer stage?
Before offer stage,
yeah. I've never heard of that. Fair.
Yeah, we try. I mean,
I probably wouldn't recommend that.
It's maybe because I know clients. Actually, I do. I have heard of a client. I heard a client. Yeah, Refine. Jenna, she brought in a client. She brought one of my candidates in. They came up from London for an because they're Manchester based, and she got really drunk, and she didn't offer. Do you remember that? She got absolutely pissed.
Yeah.
And she ruined it for herself.
It's important to see how they fit into the team, like socially and culturally, but we bring them into the office to do that. So in one of our interview processes, in the 2nd stage, they'll come and spend like 2 hours in the office and sit with the team and go around. But I think it's fine to do it in that environment, but I think to do it outside in an environment where you're drinking and stuff, I think it's distasteful almost. I don't know. It doesn't sit comfortable with me. It's not something I would recommend doing.
Especially if they've not got the offer yet. I think if the offer's in place and you're 100% on the candidate, then that's fine to do because they will be doing social things with you. Yeah. But until that stage, probably best not to.
All right. Cool. We're done.
Thank you.